So now let's talk about grid lines and how we could use grid lines and leverage grid lines to set up very nice layouts here. So in order to show the actual grid lines and their designated coordinates, I'm going to go to developer tools here. So I'm going to go more tools, then I'm going to go developer tools. This will show the grid lines accurately. So that's, as you can see, the grid lines are now shown. Remember that we had 3 columns here, 1, 2, 3, and we had 3 rows. I set this back to 1 FR, 1 fractional unit. And of course, depending on your browser, you'll just have to figure out how to display the grid by using developer tools. So for instance, in this particular case, it's grid. You can certainly turn it off, or you can turn it on. For educational and demonstrative purposes, I'm going to turn it on. So if you look at these numbers here, they're basically like coordinates of where the grid line should start and where they should end. So this line here, from the columns end, from the columns perspective, this is line 1, then this is line 2, and this is line 3, this is line 4. From the rows perspective, starting from the top, this is line 2, this is line 3, and this is line. Now, what do these negative numbers mean? Well, they basically starting from the right side or from the bottom. So for the column, from the columns perspective, from the right end, so this is line -1, this is line -2, this is line -3, and this is line -4. So let's demonstrate how we can use these to set up layouts. So for example, here I have auto. Let me just add one more column just for demonstrative purposes. So just adding one more column here. And now we just notice that it goes to line 5 instead of line 4. So now I'm just going to make this item here span approximately from line 1 here up to line 4 here. So let me just demonstrate this. So I have to select the first item. So we said the first item belonged to the class of item 1. So I'm just going to say grid column start. So where it should start from the columns perspective using these lines here. So I wanted to start at line 1. And then I'm going to go grid column end. Where along these lines should it stop? I wanted to stop at line 4, like so. And now I'm just going to refresh this and see the outcome. There we go. So item 1 now spans from line 1, shown here, and goes up to line 4, shown here at the grid column end. In a similar way, we can also go grid row start and grid row end. So for example, what if I wanted item 1 to span just up to row 2, up to the second line? So this is line 1 from the row perspective. This is line 2 from the row perspective. This is line 3. So actually, I want to go to line 3, line 4, and so forth and so on. So I'm just going to go grid row start. I'll go from 1, and then I want to end at 3. So grid row end, I'm going to go 3. So it should end here. And now if I refresh this, notice that item 1 goes from 1, 2, and then it ends at 3, just like that. Now there is a shortcut to doing this. Instead of going grid column start, grid column end, I could just say go grid column and grid row. So I could just show you how this works. So I could just go here, grid column, and let's just say this time I wanted to go up to line 3. So from line 1 to line 3. So I'm just going to go 1/3. So that's a neat little shortcut that you can apply here. There we go. It goes from 1 to 3. And what if I wanted to do apply a similar style or value to the row that we had previously? So I could just say grid row here, grid row, and I wanted to go to 3. So 1 to 3, the following way. And there we go. What about the negative numbers? Let's just say I want item 5 to go from this -1 here from the columns perspective up to -3 here from the columns perspective. So I can just go this is item 5 here. So let's just see if I have a selector for item 5. I have multiple selectors here. So I just say item 5 from -5 to -3. Let's see what happens here. And now if I go from, if I look at item 5, it goes from -5 to -3. Excuse me, this is -5 from the columns perspective. So this is -1, -2, -3. So it's -3, -3 to -5 from this perspective. If I wanted it to go to actually to 3 here, it should be -3. -1 to -3. So it should actually be like this if I wanted to accomplish what I wanted to accomplish previously. There we go. So there we go. It goes from -1 from the columns perspective, -2, and -3 in the following way. So that's like most of what you need to learn about grid column, grid rows, and how to go about spanning the cells here. Another thing that you could do is Okay, look at the number of columns here and use the span property. So I could just say here, for item 6, I wanted to span 2 columns, just 2 columns. So I could just go item 6. In the same way, I could just say grid column, and then I'm going to go span 2. So it should span approximately 2 cells, two column cells. Remember how many column cells that we had here? We have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 column cells with lines 1 through 5. So let's check this out. There we go. Now it just spans 2 columns. In the same way, I could just span 3. If I wanted to span 3, it should go up to -2 here, or 4, looking at it from the positive number perspective. So there we go. So now it spans 3 columns from our grid template columns declaration. So that's how that works. There are more convenient and nicer ways to go about sorting out these cells, and we'll talk about grid template areas soon.